Yeah, these guys, I gotta say, either these guys are something that someone made,
Mm-hmm.
or they're real things that have no relation to any creature that we know.
To Earth, yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I don't think they're...
Like, there's no way.
No, no.
Welcome, folks, to the Creature Feature Picture Show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you all with us here tonight. Without further ado, let's introduce our ghastly hosts.
We've talked a lot about dogs and cryptids, and by a lot, I mean we've talked about one dog and one cryptid on this channel, being Mothman. The cryptid we're talking about today, the first sighting also involves a dog. Now, a man named Jose, whose last name I could not find for the life of me, noticed that his dogs were barking more often than they had been before. And while dogs barking at night isn't, of course, an uncommon thing, it typically occurs when they're trying to scare off a predator or they see, I don't know, like a bird in the yard. But when it becomes a pattern, a nightly almost ritual, it can cause a disturbance to neighbors and the owners themselves, right? If you have a loud dog barking every single night, you're not going to be able to sleep, your neighbors are going to be pissed off, it's just not a good scene. Mr. Jose decided that he would set up security cameras on his property to try and figure out why his dogs had started barking every single night. And of course, as all of us would, he expected just a wild animal, maybe a trespasser, who knows? Never in his wildest dreams would Jose have expected grainy footage of a pair of what looked to be white pants gliding around his front yard. These pants resemble a Dr. Seuss character in a book called What Was I Scared Of? And the character was called The Pale Green Pants. Now, Jose immediately woke his brother, and the two of them went out searching for footprints, and they actually claimed to find small footprints in their yard. However, as these things typically go, when investigators arrived, the footprints had been conveniently washed away. And the original CCTV footage that was on those security cameras has been lost. I don't know how. Honestly, all of the information on these guys is so difficult to find. So that, I don't know how it got lost, but it's gone. But there is still a recording of the monitor. That is what's on the screen right now.
Okay, I have to say, I am not at all knowledgeable about these guys. I don't even think I've ever heard of them before. This is interesting. This is really something.
If it's fake, it's an incredibly funny hoax. I gotta say. If this is fake and the person who faked this is watching, good job, well done. We respect you. I respect you. Maggie might not, but I respect you.
What? I have no ill will towards the hoaxer of the Fresno Nightcrawlers, if it is a hoax.
Yeah.
And if you tell us that you made it up, we won't tell anyone. We
won't tell anyone. Just email us, and we'll keep it on the DL, okay? Anyways, this first sighting occurred sometime in 2007. The next and probably most famous sighting of the Fresno Nightcrawlers occurred on March 28th in 2011. The eyewitnesses were actually Yosemite, what's the word? Park rangers.
Yosemite?
I don't know what...
Yosemite?
Yosemite. I don't want to talk about Yosemite. Yeah, have you never heard of Yosemite National Park? Maggie.
I do think it's one of those lesser known ones,
biologist. Yeah, exactly. It's very niche. Only the real explorers and hikers know about Yosemite. Anyways, shut up. I don't want to talk about it. Anyways, the freaking park rangers in Yosemite, had set up security cameras to monitor potential vandalism that was occurring in the area. And instead of capturing, teenagers with too much time on their hands, the park rangers were shocked to discover something much, much weirder. At approximately 2 a.m., security cameras on the Yosemite National Park caught two figures that heavily resembled the creatures in Mr. Jose's footage. And this footage, because it was, the technology in security cameras had advanced, is much, much clearer. And this time, there were two Nightcrawlers. There was one large, the larger and taller one was leading the way, and there was a smaller one trailing behind it. which has let a lot of people speculate that there's a dynamic between adult and young Nightcrawlers, and that allows for the potential of a breeding population. So here's that video now.
Is it like slowed down?
No, they walk that way. It's crazy. Like, they don't move like anything that I could find on planet Earth.
They don't
like
even
terrestrial.
look like they're walking.
I know, it's like they're gliding. It's crazy. Anyways, after the Yosemite event, there have been 2 other sightings that I'm not super convinced of. The first one happened in Poland, and it's another video recording from a handheld camera of a creature walking just like the other 2. And in Billings, Montana, apparently there was another Nightcrawler captured on a home surveillance system, and after the sighting, a deer was found with a hole in its side, and some people believe that a Nightcrawler had kicked the deer and left it to die. Again, like, they've never really seemed violent on camera, like the recordings I've seen, so you know, like, it's worth mentioning. I don't know if I really believe it. I had a lot of questions about these guys, so I went on Reddit. A lot of people were completely convinced that the Nightcrawlers were a hoax, which scared me, because I was like, I would like to be, you know, transparent about stuff like that. If this is a hoax, I need to know so I can talk about it. But I haven't found any evidence one way or the other. Like, there was this guy, and I don't know his name, and I honestly don't care enough to find it. And he made a post where he was saying that he was the one who made, I think it was the original Nightcrawler video. And he was like, you know, it was a hoax and I made it up. But anyways, here's my new movie that's doing really well. And this is the same technology I used for the hoax. But a lot of people also said it was just a marketing ploy, because there was no actual evidence of him making the hoax, like the first video. So again, like, I could definitely see these maybe being a hoax, but I've not found anything concrete. There's a lot of misinformation about these guys too, because some people say, oh, like, the local native tribes have, you know, depictions of nature spirits that look exactly like these. And I could find one, I think they're called the Stickmen, that are like wandering nature spirits, but again, they don't exactly match. Like, they are white, they're kind of gangly, but they've got eyes, and these guys have no, you know, discernible features. So there's a lot of muck, and it's hard to find what's really true and what's really not, but I just wanted to put that out there. There's also a guy who tried to actually recreate the Nightcrawler videos to show like how easy it is to hoax. But to me, this video that he made looks completely different than the other 2. Like, when you can see that that's a pair of human legs. Like, the gait, you can see the kneecaps, you can see like how clunky the movement is. And to me, like, when you compare that to the Nightcrawler videos with that, like you said, the almost gliding movement, that isn't quite compelling to me. I don't know how you feel, but for me, like, it's very different.
Well, first of all, how do we know that they don't have any, like, discernible features? Like, these videos are pretty terrible.
Yeah, that's true.
They're pretty awful.
That's true.
So that's number
from
one.
What we can,
just
from
something
what we
to
can
think
see,
about.
they don't have discernible
No,
features.
and yeah,
Is that
I
fair?
get that. That makes sense. So this guy, I don't like whatever he's doing.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable, right?
I don't feel like that matches at all.
I'm glad I'm not crazy, because
And I
thought
also
the same
don't think that the technology, like, when was this made?
I'm actually not sure.
Because this
I just
first
went up.
sighting was in 2008. That was a long time ago.
I think this was made in 14 years, so 2012. So yeah, the technology would have been much more advanced in 2012 versus 2008 or 2007, I think it is. Anyways,
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not fully convinced one way or another. Like, these could definitely be hoaxes. But anyways, yeah, if anyone has like a written, you know, a statement or proof or a website or anything that says these are hoaxes, please send it, because I'm so confused. But as of right now, we're treating them like they're not hoaxes. So, just to recap everything, the Fresno Nightcrawlers are basically just a walking pair of pants that have been seen in both urban and natural areas. And I like to think of them as nature's vagabond, because they've only been seen wandering. They just like to roam. And their morphology is they're bipedal. There are no visible muscles when they walk, but that could be attributed to the bad cameras. They have thin and stilt-like legs with joints that bend in ways that defy conventional anatomy. They have a smooth and gliding gait, and they almost float instead of walk. They're between 3 and 4 feet tall, but again, that's debatable because we don't have great references. But some reports say they can reach up to 6 feet tall. And the legs make up the vast majority of their height, and they have what seems to be a webbing or membrane connecting their legs to their torsos. And some people believe this is camouflage. I don't know how that would be camouflage, but hey, sure, why not? Their upper body is a round protrusion with no visible arms, shoulders, or neck. They have no facial features that we could see, and this was actually specified 0 sensory organs. Which is,
once again, how do we know?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's interesting to think about. Coloration, obviously they're pale white or gray, which potentially indicates a subterranean lifestyle. I thought that was kind of a cool idea, and they're often seen in pairs. Now, respectfully, what the fuck are these guys? Because, fun fact, I have no clue. I have genuinely no idea, but we're gonna try anyways. So, my first species is a barn owl. Because barn owl babies, if you haven't seen them, horrifying. Horrible, terrifying creatures that kind of look like this. They're bipedal, they're really gangly, and they've got the fluffy down feather that could maybe pass as like the white, I don't know. Species 2, a deer. The butt of a deer kind of looks like a Fresno Nightcrawler, especially if it's an albino deer. Is it great? No, but it's what I've got. Species 3, a borzoi, because if they're standing with a slightly arched back with their head to the ground, they actually look really similar to a nightcrawler. I couldn't find a perfect picture, I'll have to go back and look. But that's what I got.
Okay. I don't want to, disparage your efforts in trying, but I feel like the one issue with all of these is that they will all have very reflective eyes, so I feel like we would have been able to see them in the...
I know, I agree. Maggie, listen, I agree. I 100%
And I know,
agree.
I know you didn't have a lot to work with. I get it.
There was nothing better. Maybe they're blind. Maybe they're blind. They have no eyes.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
I mean, I guess the deer butt, if it's just the butt of the animal, it doesn't have eyes on its butt. Yeah. I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to defend any of these. I don't think... We've been trying to say what the most likely and the least likely is. I don't know. Honestly, I think owls maybe are the maybe most likely, but I
don't know.
I'm not gonna bet on any of them.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't.
Yep.
I don't know either. To be honest.
Yep. I'm gonna take owl because I like owls and I've already done a bunch of research on them.
I'm gonna, I think, tentatively take deer, but
I was thinking of deer as well.
Keep thinking.
Okay, we're back again.
For the first time.
Shall we play rock, paper, scissors?
Let us.
Rock, paper, scissors, rock.
Paper.
Bro, you went after me. You
not on my end.
Yeah, okay. You know what? This is your first real win, too. Because April Fool's doesn't count. It's April Fool's.
Yeah, sure, okay.
It doesn't count, I'm sorry.
Sure, okay. I had initially, tentatively picked deer, but I didn't love that, because it just doesn't, and this is, no shade towards you, because this was a really hard one to do. But I felt like deer, the only thing that really gets white is their butt, and what are they doing? Walking backwards?
Yeah, man, I don't know.
So,
I mean, they can walk on their back legs, but, I get it. I get it, and I agree with you.
Yeah. So I ended up going with this secret fourth option, and I decided to go with rabbits. In particular, I picked Flemish giant rabbits. Now, these rabbits are humongous. And I'll put a picture, but they are dog-sized rabbits. They're the largest breed of domestic rabbit, They can grow up to 30 inches tall, and their ears are 6 inches minimum. They can be all sorts of colors, but for my purposes, I'd like to point out they could be white or black, or like a brown, dark brown color. And their ears can be a different color than their bodies. And also, I didn't know this, but rabbits can walk. They don't have to hop around. It's more comfortable for them to hop, and it's easier for them to hop, but they can walk. And they're these Flemish giant rabbits. I didn't know this, but they're actually kept as pets all across the United States.
Yeah, I've always wanted one. Fun fact.
I didn't know that these were a thing. Those are my Flemish giant rabbit facts. And I'm gonna pivot a little bit and talk about Scottish fold cats. If you've never heard of these cats before, you've probably seen them. They are cats that have very short little legs, and their ears are folded over. They're a coveted breed. Like, people seek them out. But a lot of people don't know that the reason that their ears are folded over is because they have a disease called osteochondrodysplasia, which is a disease that affects the development of cartilage and bone. So really what's happening is the cartilage in their ear is so weak that it can't support the rest of their ear, and so they just are folded over. And this also causes dwarfism in every single case. Doesn't matter what type of osteochondrodysplasia you have, you always will have dwarfism. And Scottish fold cats are notorious for being really mean and just kind of overall aggressive, I guess. But that's because they're always in pain. They kind of have like it's not actually arthritis, but it's arthritis-like pain, where it affects the joints because it affects cartilage. So Flemish rabbits can also suffer from osteochondrodysplasia, which can also cause their ears to fold over. So let's talk about why I told you all of those things. Here's my theory. My theory is that Flemish rabbits are the Nightcrawlers, and their ears are what you're seeing on the trail cam. So if their bodies are dark and their ears are white, the body is kind of camouflaged because it's so dark, then all you'd be seeing is those folded over ears, okay? And that would kind of give like the weird, almost gliding like gait and like the floating effect, because their ears aren't actually on the ground or supporting them. They're just kind of moving around as they're walking. And they would have really small bodies compared to their ears because of osteochondrodysplasia. So that would make it a lot harder to see their body. It might be easier for their bodies to be hidden by their folded over ears. And I would think that it wouldn't be that uncommon for like a pet rabbit to have escaped from like a home or a breeder or a pet store and be out in the wild. Since osteochondrodysplasia causes pain, they might be very lethargic, which would cause slow walking rather than hopping, because hopping also does, like, you need really good joints for that, and usually rabbits do have those really good joints and the structure that makes it easier for them to hop rather than walk. But if they have this joint issue, it might be easier for those rabbits to walk rather than hop. And for all of the weird Nightcrawler stuff that makes them look like they're not really a living thing, like the lack of visible muscles or the weird gait, the lack of facial features, none of those would be present if you're just seeing the ears. And the rabbits are also most active during dawn and dusk, which I didn't know, because that was one of my main issues with this, is I thought rabbits were most active during the day, but they're not, which is interesting. And they can also live 8 to 10 years, so both of those sightings that we saw could have been the same rabbits.
Just getting around, man.
Yeah, because I feel like it would be really unlikely for this to happen twice.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it could be the same.
But if there was like a reason that they were selected for those white ears, then I could see maybe a population growing. You know, maybe if there was some.
Yeah, that's true.
Some benefit.
So that's my theory. It's a little silly, but
I like it. Actually, I've got a couple, you know, of course, with any theory ever in biology, like there are a couple things, but actually, okay, now that I've heard it, I feel like fairly solid.
Thank you. I do think the one thing is, as I was watching it, the trail cam footage back, it does really look like their legs are moving very intentionally, which I don't know
agree
that their ears would be.
I think if anything, they drag a little bit, so it wouldn't look like stepping.
I do agree. But I don't know. I actually didn't.
I think it's cool.
And I forgot how well rabbits can control their ears.
I would assume if they had what was it again?
Osteochondrodysplasia.
Osteochondrodysplasia, they wouldn't have as good control because it would hurt. So they wouldn't do any movements that they didn't have to do. Is my thoughts, not knowing much about this disease.
But then also, would it be more uncomfortable for the, not wind, but, as they're moving forward, their ears to be, like, pushed back into them? Or would it be more comfortable for them to be kind of holding
them up?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do wonder.
We'd have to ask them, I think.
Probably. Let's get a rabbit in here.
Yeah. Let's get a rabbit on the mic, okay? So maybe I have one more thing that I'm thinking. It's like, oh shoot, I forgot. Oh yeah, the size. I know you said you couldn't quite figure out how to explain how the ears got so high because they were, described as 3 to 6 feet, the Fresno Nightcrawlers.
Yeah.
And I feel like on a trail cam, these would be so low to the ground.
Yeah, that was my one thing that I really... Because these guys are big, but they're not that big.
Mm-hmm. No.
Like, that would be crazy. I tried to think about, like, maybe the trail cam would be kind of a weird angle and make it look bigger than it is. But while I was looking at it, I couldn't... Like, they just look so big.
They do. They look huge. It's terrifying.
So I did try to justify that, but I just couldn't.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say the same as maybe it's just perspective.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, there also isn't anything you can really compare them to, because the trees in the background are too blurry to, like, really give a size estimate, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like, the trees...
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. It's hard.
Yeah, it is. They're weird. They're a weird cryptid, that's for sure.
Because, like, how do you know how big these trees are?
Yeah, they could be really, really tiny trees. They could be broccoli. This could be a set with broccoli and a rabbit.
It could be.
Mm-hmm. That's actually what the Fresno Nightcrawlers are. Just a bunch of little guys walking around broccoli field. Shall we scoot over to mine, which actually might be... I don't want to say more ridiculous, but it might be more ridiculous than yours.
Okay.
So I chose the barn owl, which if some of you have caught our Mothman video, you'll say, wow, Ava, you're consistent. Yes, I am. I like birds. Listen, I study birds. Birds are kind of my thing. Leave me alone. I don't know that much about them, but I like them, okay? So I chose barn owl again because I feel like, of course, nothing really truly resembles the Fresno Nightcrawlers, if I'm being so honest. Like, I don't know what they are, but they don't look like any other animal. But I think barn owls get pretty dang close for anything that is alive on Earth. They have no discernible neck, no discernible shoulders. They have really really long legs compared to most birds and compared to their body. Of course, they're bipedal. They have the stilt-like legs that the Fresnos were described to have. They've got that weird bulby upper body. And juvenile and hatchling barn owls are honestly kind of disturbing to look at. They're scary. They make me very uncomfortable. And if you squint, they kind of really match the Nightcrawlers. And they're also typically pure white, or like if their down feathers haven't come in, they're like a weird pink, white, gray color. So like they have a lot of those physical characteristics. And in barn owls, their hearing is their strongest sense, which is then followed by their vision. But they primarily hunt and move around with their hearing. With their sense of hearing. And of course, barn owls are very, as most flying animals are, they're very adapted for flight. There have been instances in both owl evolutionary history and barn owl evolutionary history for them to be primarily ground predators. And this instance is called, an ancient barn owl called Tytopollens, which is a now extinct burrowing barn owl that lived in the Bahamas. So Tytopollens stood at about 1 meter tall, which is approximately 3.2 feet, and it is debated whether it was 100% flightless, but it definitely spent a lot of time foraging on the ground. It was primarily a terrestrial predator versus arboreal, and it had a similar diet to historic barn owls, which is, larger rodents. And fun fact, I didn't know this, barn owls actually have had a very large diet shift where they used to eat typically brown anoles and like lizards and snakes and stuff like that, and now they mostly eat rats and mice because humans brought rats and mice around everywhere and they're a very easy prey source. Anyway, but barn owls used to mostly eat reptiles and newts and all of, stuff like that. So why would a bird become flightless? Well, of course, you can, guess this, but all flightless and terrestrial birds descended from flighted birds. And birds become flightless for one of two reasons. Either they live on an island, like tidal pollens, where they don't have predators, so they are much safer, they don't need flight as an escape method, or they adapt to water, like penguins. Penguins basically traded flying in the sky for flying in water. Why am I talking about all of this? Well, I actually think that the Fresno Nightcrawlers are a type of cave-dependent barn owl. And stick with me, okay? I think because of their heavy reliance on hearing, and the fact that when animals move into caves and burrows, blindness typically follows. It's selected as a favored trait typically in caves, and it's believed that this is because blind animals are more likely to stay in a cave system instead of following light back into the outside world. So if animals that can see light, that follow light, and are removed from the breeding pool, blind animals are the ones that stay, and they're the more likely ones to reproduce, and then those blind animals stay, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. It leads to animals with very bad vision or no vision at all. And this also can lead to the completely shrunken or removed eyes. There are plenty of caves in Yosemite with large deep pools of water, which I think could potentially act as kind of an island effect. So the barn owls start, following their prey sources as lizards and snakes and all of that move more into caves. The barn owls follow. They don't need to fly as much because, caves have roofs. It's harder to maneuver. Walking is easier. And they just start, spending more and more time in these caves and eventually just lose their ability to fly and see altogether because they're spending so much time in the cave systems. And even, I think maybe they could have become adapted more to the aquatic environment of caves. I'm not saying they would be 100% aquatic, but maybe more like how penguins have adapted to be both terrestrial and aquatic hunters. Well, penguins are aquatic hunters, but you know what I mean. But their wings would maybe become more streamlined, and when held against the body, they're much more difficult to see when walking on land. Okay, and you might be saying, Ava, you're getting really ahead of yourself because we've only seen nightcrawlers on land, and I would agree with you. I am getting ahead of myself, but I think that those nightcrawlers that you see are actually juveniles of this species. Plenty of bird species disperse. If once they leave the nest, they travel to find new habitats and territories. So I'm thinking the Fresno Nightcrawlers, instead of losing their sight, like they're not blind from the moment that they're born. They're born with eyesight that gets worse and worse over time. So when they're leaving the nest or the cave system that they live in, they can still see enough where they can leave their cave and find a new one, and then as they mature into adults, they go fully, into their cave lifestyle. They lose their sight and continue their population breeding, whatever. And I'm also thinking, because they're seen traveling in, one or two in pairs, I think maybe the juveniles disperse together. Which is also seen in, a fair amount of animals. So the young leave together to find new habitats and establish them until they become ready to breed, and then they have disputes. That's what I got for you.
It's certainly interesting. Maybe I missed this, but I know that, obviously a lot of animals start out not being able to open their eyes and then seeing. Mm-hmm. Does it happen that animals are born with sight and then I know that it happens as part of a disease, but
no, I think there are animals that are born sighted and lose their sight. It gets worse over time. I think there are some cave fish that it happens. It would be in cave animals where, eyesight isn't that important. My thinking is also okay, if you're very light sensitive, right? Eventually, if you're exposed to too much light, your eyesight will, you will go blind. If you're equipped to live only in dark environments, your eyes are not able to handle that much light, at that time. So it could actually be an indicator that they've gone far enough from their home territory when they start to not be able to see. like, because you have that light exposure for a set amount of time until it completely destroys your retinas, and then you know, okay, now it's time to go into a cave.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting, like, mechanism for dispersal.
Definitely. The other thing, so are you saying that this group is descended from Tytopollins? Or you're saying that this is...
No, I think it could
like,
just be a
comparing
different... It could just be... Yeah, I'm just saying that it is possible in barn owls to be terrestrial and to be successful. So maybe it's
Gotcha.
just a different branch of, you know... Because, no, those birds are in the Bahamas, so I wouldn't even say it's... Yeah, for them to disperse would be... But just that it has happened, and, you know, like, gigantism is something that we see all the time in quote-unquote island creatures, or animals. But if the cave systems function like an island where there are no predators, there's no reason that the owls couldn't get bigger, that it could function as kind of the same as an island environment would.
I don't know. I don't necessarily see anything terribly wrong with this.
No,
It's just like so much
Yeah.
to happen.
It is. I agree 100%.
And I also don't... The one thing about the description for me is I just feel like, yes, owls have very long legs, but I don't know about this long.
Let me show you a juvenile barn
know...
owl. They're freaks, man. No, they're freaks. Like, they are horrible to look at.
Yeah, but even that, it's still like,
There's
I would say
one
half
picture.
body, half leg. But I feel
Yeah.
like the Nightcrawlers are
Mostly
3/4 leg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way in hell I could get 3/4 leg.
Yeah, I
1/4
know.
Body.
It's that's fair.
Mm-hmm. This is me doing research for this.
Honestly, I think that's us every time we make these videos.
I think you're right. Oh man. Yeah.
The Komodo dragons of Peru are a bit of a...
So long, you well-meaning miscreants, and a good evening to you. This concludes tonight's showing of the Creature Feature Picture Show. Be sure to tune in to our next broadcast for more supernatural speculation. Until then, lock your doors, pray nothing goes bump in the night, and most importantly, stay spooky.